The most recognizable eyes on the planet are studying us. Today, the faun to which these eyes belong to has gracefully aged beyond a century. It is these very eyes that have summoned me to Vienna. The intention is to trace the footsteps that this faun and his creator once treaded upon. A narrative beckons. This time I arrived by train. Amidst a canvas of rolling landscapes, the train journey unfolds. The rhythmic pulse of the tracks echoes the heartbeat of anticipation. Through windows framed in steel and glass, scenes evolve like pages of a storybook. Fields start to give way to concrete and tarmac. As the train inches closer, the click and clack of its movement mingles with the distant melody of church bells. Like any arrival to a city, the air is thick with possibility. Between the deer and a man, a meadow stretches, a canvas painted with hues of green and gold. A space of serenity and solitude becomes a theater of unspoken understanding. The traveler's presence is both an intrusion and an acknowledgement. The deer, poised and watchful, is a guardian of the wild, a living embodiment of all the secrets the forests carry. For the Japanese, the deer are the messengers from the Shinto gods. A silent conversation unfolds. Words are unnecessary when the language of the connection is written in the stillness of the meadow, in the quietness of the woods, where time slows and perspectives shift. And for a fleeting second, two beings acknowledge the profound beauty of their shared existence. A forest holds within its embrace a world of enchantment and mystery. It is a sanctuary of towering trees, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. It is in the woods 20 kilometers from Vienna where Salten met or heard the story of a stag that inspired Bambi. In the film, Bambi is a white-tailed deer. In the book, a roe deer. As the city's outskirts emerge, as the skyline rises from the horizon, a panorama of promises starts to feel fulfilled. Somewhere further, the sunlight dances on the surface of the Donau River, the Danube. In the grandeur of Vienna's palaces, there's a whisper of an era that once held sway. Public signs and symbols can reveal so much about places visited. They can offer clues of many kinds. In 1963, the Austro-Hungarian-born Hollywood director Otto Preminger makes a film, The Cardinal, set in wartime Austria. Some of the local stand-ins and extras bring their own swastika armbands. They get to wear them in public for one more time. In a Viennese museum and the library next to it, an exhibition, Beyond Bambi, about Felix Salten, took place in 2020. History lives not only in museums, but in the pulse of everyday existence, awaiting discovery for those willing to listen. The deer's footprints ring through the corridors of time. Perhaps some of the words for Bambi were written on this desk. Vienna at the start of the 20th century looks like a gathering from Kubrick's Shining. Vienna is also the setting for Arthur Schnitzler's Traum novella, published in 1926. Salten, a lifelong friend of Schnitzler, used his position as a theater critic to promote Schnitzler's career. At the start of the century, Hitler, Tito, Trotsky, Stalin, Freud, among other characters, are all visiting the same Viennese cafeterias. It is there where they fine-tune their grand ideas and notes before the concert they so wish to conduct on the civilization. Also, Theodor Herzl is in Vienna. He studies in the university. Felix Salten succeeds him as an editor at the Neue Freie Presse. From 1848 to 1938, Jews in Austria live a period of prosperity. During the reign of Franz Joseph and after, Austria's Jewish population contributes greatly to the country's culture. The emperor was liked by Jews. Songs and prayers about him are printed in Jewish prayer books. The deer observe constantly, a question of survival for the prey animal. Salten observes too. Letters and telegrams document the birth and success of Bambi, but also the decline of Europe. Danger and thunder are growing in the forest. Children write to Salten. He writes other animal stories, some of them inspiring Disney for other films, but Bambi is always the one. While Bambi triumphs, the world destructs. Salten was born Sigmund Salzmann on 6th of September 1869 in Pest, Austria-Hungary. In his teens, he changes his name to sound less Jewish. For the winter, deer develop a thicker coat of grayish-brown color. It provides insulation against the cold. An extra layer of fur creates a barrier that helps them retain body heat. Unnecessary movements are limited to conserve energy. Feeding patterns are modified, diets adjusted. A shift in metabolism occurs. They utilize their stored fat reserves that they have built up during summer to make it through the winter. To survive the winter, they group together, seeking shelter in forests and hilly terrains, protection from harsh winds and deep snow. And when temperatures finally rise, they shed their coat for a reddish-brown summer coat. On average, deer can run at speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour. The sprint often used to evade predators and danger. Whitetail's vertical leaps can reach heights of 3 meters. The distance of a single leap can be 9 meters in a single bound. The antlers, coat colors, and markings each tell a tale for the other deer. Their distinctive faces with a sense of grace, alertness, dark expressive eyes with a wide field of vision. The eyes, too, giving a sense of kindness. You will know if the deer is angry. The eyes will tell it. Deer have always been part of tales. Celtic mythology saw deer as messengers between the living and the spirit world. For the Greeks, the deer was linked to Artemis, huntress and protector of nature. The third labor of Heracles was to bring back alive a golden-horned deer. In the Norse mythologies, golden branched antlers of a stag represent growth, renewal, and vitality. For many Native American tribes, deer are seen as messengers, as guides with a gentle nature, protecting the forest. In China, the deer is a symbol of longevity, good luck, and prosperity. It will bring harmony and good fortune. During the Second World War, stories of deer arriving to war-torn areas gave hope. Nature endured while humans fought. The longer daylight hours allow for more foraging and grooming. fresh grass, leaves, fruits, and plants for those nursing their fawns that have been born during late spring, early summer, so that they grow and develop before the next winter. And as the summer progresses, the deer prepare for the rut. Antlers grow to attract and assert, while bonds are formed and strengthened also in groups. A variety of sounds is used for communication: bleats, grunts, wheezes, snorts, whistles, bellows, growls, clicks and groans, to alert, signal presence and status, to warn and challenge, to intimidate rivals, to tell that now it is time to flee, to take cover, or time to attract does, the readiness to mate. When it's time to rest, the deer look for safety and shelter close to the feeding area, usually often changing their bedding areas so their scent is not just in one place. Deer moms teach their fawns where to find food and what to eat, the paths to travel, always emphasizing the importance of staying alert and how to use the environment, how to blend into the forest, and the different meanings of each bleat and whistle they make. The moms set an example on the importance of keeping their fur clean and free of parasites. A fawn reaches adulthood around 1.5, 2 years, at which point they are called yearlings. They shed their spots but are still growing. It will take a few more years to reach full adult size. Young deer stags learn to fight by observing the interactions and fights between the older deer. They imitate the postures and techniques in play fights between themselves. Playful sparring helps them to learn skills in a safe environment. Learning when to advance and when to retreat, how to use the antlers, takes time to learn. The fights are used to establish status and positions in the herd's hierarchy. The Russian memorial reminds not only of the war, but also of the time Vienna was divided into sectors, the Russians leaving in 1955. Is it feasible to navigate the streets of European cities without inadvertently treading upon the haunting remnants of history? There is no sign informing Hitler lived here, in one of the buildings he stayed in. In the book, Bambi's family is hunted and killed, one by one. In the end, he is all alone, the only survivor, the only one left from his family. What happens to Bambi in the forest is what happens in Europe during the Holocaust. Felix Salten's 1923 masterpiece Bambi, A Life in the Woods, was meant for adults. A warning to the world of horrors to come, Bambi, a parable about what is happening in an increasingly fascist world. How do you survive in your home? The pastel drawings of Chinese-American Tyrus Wong, which served as inspiration for Disney's Bambi film, captured the question. The world is in flames, homes are burning. Wong himself works as lead artist on the film. "700 kilometers from Vienna, outside Berlin, stands the Wannsee Villa, where the leading figures of the Nazi government and the SS met to discuss the so-called final solution to the Jewish question. In 1935, the Nazis banned and burned Salten's Bambi novels. Few first editions of Bambi remain despite it having been a bestseller. The faun was threatening to Hitler. Yet postcards and photos where Hitler is feeding fawns are made available by the Nazi propaganda machine. German children in Hitler Youth, Volkssturm, and the Deutsche Jungvolk are taught target practice with one of Bambi's relatives. Today, under the guarding eyes of the American Embassy in the center of Berlin, stands the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe.
Because when his commanding general of the city defense told him that he could only keep the Soviets away from the bunker for
Here,
a maximum
there is
of
also a
24
sign
additional
that
hours.
marks the spot of Hitler's bunker. Today, a parking lot. In Vienna, a metro station reminds of the human rights. But the narratives and myths of the past are always just behind the corner. Salten and his wife, unsafe in Austria, fled following the German annexation in 1938. They moved to Switzerland, where the writer remained for the rest of his life, never returning to Vienna. 3 years before his death in 1942, he sees Bambi in a Zurich cinema. His response is brief. It was simple. Yes, it was a very fine film, and I liked it. And then he left. In 1933, he had sold the film rights to the American director Sidney Franklin for $1,000. In the 30s, Salten had collaborated with Billy Wilder on several screenplays. It is through Wilder that the contact to America and Disney was established. Today, Bambi lives on. No longer just a character, Bambi is a cultural reference point. For Stephen King, Bambi is the first horror film he ever saw. Years before Werner Herzog, Felix Salten told he has wanted to free his readers from the faulty perception that nature is a sunny paradise. According to him, nature lovers most often are completely ignorant of nature and the daily violence of the wilderness. Felix Salten was an avid hunter. When Salten's sequel to Bambi, Bambi's Children, is translated into English in 1939, he writes to the American publisher, "I beg of you most urgently, quite apart from softening, not to advertise my work as a children's book or to launch it otherwise in such a way." In 2022, Princeton University Press publishes a new translation. Bambi returns finally to the themes of the gathering storm.